Could you just talk a little bit about how you go through understanding what the client needs and then what you create so that they get the right result?
In the case of the window manufacturer, what I'm going to create is a chatbot that allows them to take warranty requests from their website. And a problem that they're running into is that a form on a website can only do so much validation.
Yeah.
A person can put in absolutely garbage data, absolutely irrelevant pictures. A system that uses a large language model can do a much better job of looking at that submission and effectively saying, hey, is this information valid? So for the window manufacturer, is this actually a picture of a window or something else
Or is it my
entirely?
dog? Yeah,
Or is it
exactly.
my dog?
You know
And
that they're getting cat videos all the time, right?
exactly.
So so you look for these opportunities with the client to identify something that can't really be done with the normal models, not deterministic.
Exactly. That's the key.
And then you create this solution. How do you go about creating it?
They run on WordPress. I've never done a
Mhm.
WordPress plugin before, but other people have done WordPress plugins. So here's the hack that I've found most useful. Take an already existing project. So let's say an already existing plugin for WordPress that's a chatbot and say, hey, AI, look at this as a sample. And based on this sample, we want to do this.
Yeah.
And it ends up being, I have a special folder that in these projects that I just call helping the AI.
Yeah, sure.
And I just reference that folder and I end up with a bunch of different samples. And the AI is broadly able to put together a new project out of those samples.
And so it will look at the samples, compare what's coming through.
Yeah.
Does this look like the sample? And then presumably go back to the client. They go back to their client and say, "We don't want a cat picture. We need a picture of the window, right?"
Exactly.
And then get that feedback.
Exactly. I know the MSP had better figure out how to make money out of this because making money out of infrastructure will be a more and more limited proposition.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with things like the Azure SRE agent. The Azure SRE agent is able to do is to look at alerts being generated by Azure Monitor and other signals and basically work the problem. So it can start with application level errors and go through and figure out that the hosts are undersized and need to be upsized. So that prevents a human person from waking up and spending hours to figure out the same thing. But that's work. That's work that the MSPs used
The
to be
MSP
able
doesn't
to.
do anymore. Yeah.
That the MSP would bill for, and now will have an increasingly more difficult time trying to bill for.
We see that too, right? So we see over and over that this being an infrastructure provider is not something you can charge for you can't charge very much for it, right? That's why everybody's feeling this price pressure.
You can't charge very much for it, and you're not differentiated. So I was thinking about this. So my background was originally in MSP, but I've spent the last 3 years in an organization. But I think the parallel is the same. What's one piece of advice that gets given to a person in an organization? Make yourself difficult to replace. Establish some process, something that you own end to end at a high level of abstraction where you are a black box, problems go in, solutions come out, nobody questions it because it works.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of commodification.
Correct.
That's the opposite of I'm just responsible for the infrastructure.
And I think that's what's exciting about what you're talking about here, because I think the mistake that a lot of people make is that they say, oh, here's an AI tool. I'll get you a license to an AI tool, give you
Yeah,
access to an
no.
AI, or teach you a few prompts, right? But that doesn't create that differentiation. It doesn't create that opportunity, that indispensability that you
Yeah,
need,
exactly.
right?
So I'll give you an example of that from my context.
Yeah.
So I started working for an IT department. And I'm sure you know the stereotypical response of an IT department to a request from the developers for access to something. By the time they figure out what the access is to, the stereotypical response is, we've given the access, in parentheses unstated, go figure out what to do with this.
Yeah.
That was not my response. My response was, here is sample code that demonstrates the basic operations of what you might do with this. So if I'm giving you access to a storage service, here's the code to read, write, update, delete. So you can immediately start using it in your applications. And I was doing this even before the LLMs got really good at generating code.
Yeah. Well, and it seems to me that even if you bring in someone like you, like yourself,
Yeah.
to create the plugin or create the application, you have created something relatively inexpensively. If you consider, like,
Extremely.
and it's something that you can maintain, that you can adjust, that you can feed it with some new data. The key with all of these things is to understand the value that you're providing to the
Precisely.
client, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that what you're talking about here is providing real value to the client. So they are saving time, they are saving money
Exactly.
by having this thing. So a charge for that is not unreasonable, because you're making their life easier and you're going to maintain it and make sure it works. And the advantage to the MSP is you apply your technical abilities to maintaining something that's really not that hard for somebody technical to maintain,
Well,
but provides a lot of value.
the other part of the value, I think, is that you're extending your own skill set. And really, maybe this whole AI thing will let MSPs become much more so experts than they are now, in the sense that you might not need as much support staff. So you'll be able to have staff that are more so dedicated to managing these solutions and delivering this kind of value for customers. And really, I was thinking about this myself as somebody who was an MSP. It would have
Yeah.
been cool if we were doing not just infrastructure. It would have been cool if we were actually involved in the business problems of our customers. But there was always a, an unspoken understanding, basically, that we don't touch that stuff.
Yeah. And
So
I think the shift is now that you have to, right? The shift is
yeah,
that you have to move away from infrastructure, because, like you say, the infrastructure play is going away.
the platforms are going to do it. And
Mm.
sure, there will be some people who remain off of the platforms, but I don't know. I don't know what the long-term viability of that
Well,
really
but I
is.
look at it like when I was in IT in the 90s, you used to charge for setting up network cards, you
Mm.
can't do that anymore, right? It just happened. It's just there. You don't even think about it. So that's the kind of thing that's where this is going, without any doubt. I mean, we see it all over the place. So what's cool about this, now you've developed this thing, or you're developing it now, and then we're going to
Mm-hmm.
go through it on June 17th, right? So
Yep, we're
you'll
gonna
talk
go
about,
through. We're gonna talk about the whole thing.
and you'll show people like how you created it, and the connection to Anthropic, and how you're feeding it, and
Yep,
all of that, right?
yep.
So that is super exciting. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this all comes together. It's
So
we'll
am
do a
I.
test right there, like a live test right there on
Oh no,
stage.
100% live demo, no questions about it.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. That'll be, and I want to be the one to submit the cat photo, so that you can tell me that that it's the wrong
That
one.
it
We
is a
got to do
cat.
something like that, Konstantin.
No, 100%. No, I firmly believe in adversarial testing and live demos. That's if the solution can't survive that, is it really a solution?
Yeah, no, but I think That'll be super interesting. I know a lot of people are really excited about seeing how this all comes together. So we'll be doing that on the 17th.